I remember to hit the buttons this time. We did it. That's what it's all about. Alright, let's go ahead and get this going. Hi! Hello everyone! Happy Choomsday! Hope everyone is having an okay start to the week. Hope you're all doing well. It's good to have you here. Welcome in. I'm tired. I'm always tired. Who am I kidding? But yeah. Hello everyone, let me say hi to you guys. Hello Artemis, welcome in, good to see ya. Hello Mage, I hope the prog is going well. Welcome in, thank you for the 65 stream streak. You're almost up to the funny number. And hello Standing, I hope Choomsday has been good to you as well. It is good to have everyone here. The fall spring is over. It is back to rain and wind. It is a chilly, stay-at-home start today, which is okay. But it's been okay. I don't know. Work continues to be weird. We had a meeting talking about like the road at, you know, what we were sort of looking at and target dates and everything. It's just kind of like, yeah, this is a lot. And after that, we're pretty much done. So, except I don't know how many people know that. So like it's super weird because like as a policy we don't talk about this with the client until it's like time to talk about it. It's like, okay, sure. But yeah, it's been an okay day. Yeah, it's the Tiberian Suns. I love them. They're a really cool band. But I don't know. It was a pretty good weekend. I ended up just sort of taking a rest day on Sunday. I don't know. I woke up and I was just like, you know, I don't think I'm gonna get a lot done today. I think I'm just gonna kind of take it easy. I'll do a little bit of drawing. I did get some more work done on the model. Started building a few more pieces. Did a little bit more on the rigging side. I think it is coming along. It's just kind of a slow process still. Ended up playing an irresponsible amount of Star Citizen, which went surprisingly well. I definitely got tilted at one point because of trying to, you know, get the materials to craft the armor set that I wanted. And I still have concerns about it, but I was able to dismantle enough armor of a similar type to get the materials to craft a basic set of it. So it's not high quality, but I do have it. And it's like, okay, well that's not nothing, right? That is nice. And then yeah, I just sort of set about making money. And I think that went surprisingly well. I didn't run into any issues. There were a couple of minor hiccups, but I didn't run into any like game-breaking issues, which was surprising. Usually you hit at least one pothole while you're playing the game, and to have as smooth of an experience as I did was good. There was one thing that I ran into. So there are a number of locations on 2 of the planets, I guess only on 2, called distribution centers. They're these large sort of facilities out scattered around the planet that, you know, as the name implies, are sort of like manufacturing or business hubs for whoever owns them. And there are various missions where you can go, like, there aren't as many as there were when they initially came out. I think they had to take a few of the mission types offline, but you know, mostly what you do is you run cargo to and from them, right? You get a mission, you get a contract, you have to load your ship up with a bunch of cargo, drop it off, and then you can pick up cargo from there and move it on to somewhere else. But for some reason, a few of the distribution centers are registered as private property, and nothing you can do gives you clearance to land. So I had a mission to go to this distribution center, and as soon as I got close, I got a notification that I was trespassing. And once I got close enough, the anti-air turrets opened up on me. So it was a very interesting trucking run because I basically had to do a hot landing, get on the pad, and as soon as I was on the ground, the turret stopped shooting at me. So I was able to get all the cargo unloaded and pick up the next job. But then as soon as I got back in the ship, I had to just like get off the ground and just hard burn out of their range. I definitely took some damage. Like my shields went down and they started laying into me. But thankfully, all the cargo made it out. My ship made it out. I did not explode. It was just like, you know, trucking's not supposed to be this exciting. So yeah, that was the one weird one, and I don't know what's going on with that. I feel like maybe the intention is certain areas are reputation locked, and like you have to get up to a certain reputation level before you are given access to this location, which it makes sense, except that I can already get missions that take me to that locale, right? So that's not it. And as far as I'm aware, there is no reputation level that would get you up to that point. So it's just broken. It's just fucked. So yeah, I don't know. There's still a lot. There are still more rough edges than smooth in the game, but it is getting there month over month. It is progressing. So yeah, I've been playing a lot of that. I played some more Deadlock. I am struggling with that game. It is strange how much I like Deadlock for how much I struggle with it. It is a brutal, unforgiving game that just revels in beating my ass, but I kind of love it. I don't know why I like it so much more than I like Dota. I think a lot of it, frankly, just comes down to it being more comfortable to play. Like, the mechanics, for all of their complexity, and they add a lot of complexity over, like, Dota or League of Legends. But, I don't know, just moving around is much simpler to work with. A lot of the items are much easier to understand how they interact with your character and their abilities. Also, the lore and the aesthetic, the theming is so good. I love the like 1930s supernatural aesthetic. It's so well executed. There's a few outliers. I feel like Billy is from the wrong decade. He's like a British punk guy from like the 60s. I don't know what he's doing here, but it's fine. But yeah, everyone else I think fits in pretty well. I guess Shiv is also kind of like, I don't know, his character might be fine, but he looks more like he's from the 1950s than the 30s. So that's a little bit weird. I feel like there are a couple of characters they had an idea for before they sort of fully locked in the look and feel of the game. Like when it initially released, they clearly had an idea, but there was a lot of placeholder stuff. There was a lot of stuff that they just sort of threw into the game to have something available to play and test with. And some of that stuff is still in, right? It is still a game in development, and it shows in some places, but it's totally forgivable. But yeah, I don't know. Though I feel like those are the two games that I've really been playing for the most part. I think once we get into summer, I kind of want to take some time and go through a list of things. You know, Expedition 33 is absolutely at the top of that list, but there's a few others that it's like, I've been meaning to play this for a long time, and now I'm finally gonna have some time available, and I want to do that. Yeah. I don't know. It sounds like a good to-do list. Yeah, honestly, my to-do list is like absurdly long. There is more. Even getting all that additional time back, there is more than I want to do than there is time to do it, which I think is kind of to be expected. Like, at least I won't be bored, right? Um, Damn it, I was gonna say something, and then I forgot. Nope, it's gone. It's gone. Must not have been important. Um, but yeah, I've been watching. What the hell is that? I've been watching Connor and Chris's cyclothon, and I don't know. I always really love the cyclothons. They're really inspiring. You know, just for as someone using their presence and their platform to do some real good in the world, and as a cyclist, you know, seeing them go for like 2 weeks, day after day, and they do like 100 kilometers a day. So it is an incredible power through. And you know, for a couple of days there, they were, you know, battling against wind and rain, and they were still going. And then they had some really nice days, and today looks rainier again, but hopefully it's not too bad for them. Um, but this one is really nice. I really like the route that they picked. So last year they went from Hokkaido down to Tokyo. So they went from the northernmost island, um, and then they crossed the strait down to Honshu, and then they went down, I guess, sort of the middle of Tohoku to get to Tokyo. And this time they're starting on sort of the north end of Honshu again, and they're going down the west coast, right? So the most of the population of Japan lives on the east slash south coast. You know, the predominant population section is the Tokyo to Osaka corridor, which runs along that side of the country. And then, you know, Japan, effectively being a mountain range sticking out of the ocean, has this large divide, effectively, which is very hard to navigate and live in. And then you get to the west coast, and it's much less developed is the wrong word, but the population density is much lower, right? And so I feel like that part of the country tends to get forgotten about a lot of the time, especially in an international perspective. And it has just been so cool watching them go through this place and, you know, go through this section and just see the stuff that they find, right? The places that they stop at for food, and the cool attractions and little things to see and places to go. And it's like, oh, this is sick. Like, if I go back to Japan, there's definitely a couple of things that I would love to check in on and revisit, but I feel like I would almost prefer to go to these places, right? Go sort of off the beaten path, maybe go up to Tohoku, go out to the west coast, to see the things that are more unnoticed, right? The less popular sites. Yeah, I feel the same way. I think I said this already, but I feel like if I ever went to France, I wouldn't want to go to Paris. I would want to go to like northern France along the coast. You know, the areas that don't get nearly as much attention. See what's going on with those folks, you know? So, I don't know. It's a good time. It's a good time. For tonight, we have a commission on deck. I did get in touch with the commissioner. We got everything nailed down. We're good to go. And I'll show you guys sort of, I did a little bit of sketching off stream with them just to finalize a plan. So I'll show you guys what we came up with. And then we're going to be working on that tonight. So that's the plan. And we're gonna go ahead with it. Yeah. That's me. How are you all doing, chat? How is your weekend going? Weekend. I wish it was the weekend still. How is your week going? It shall be the weekend again soon enough. Just you wait. Just you wait. Alright. Where are we? Where are my buttons? Alright. I need that button, and then I need to go over here. I'm gonna get out of the way a little bit. And then I need this button. And we're good. Goodness, it is I've got the cyclothon off to the side. It is a rainy sort of day. That's crazy. So yeah, on Saturday, we were messing around with a couple of ideas. I just, threw together some really rough sketches to get something to show to them and be like, hey, are any of these resonating with you, right? So we had A, B, C, and D, and then we had sort of an alternate version of 2. It was going to be E, but I felt like it was just so similar. I was like, B2. And so they were, they kind of said, oh, I like this aspect of this one and this aspect of this one. I was like, okay. So this is kind of what we came up with, and they were liking the general vibe of it so far. So we're gonna start by sort of fleshing this idea out and seeing where we go from there. So let's go ahead and drag this guy up. I'm actually just gonna make a duplicate just in case I end up fucking it up completely and I want to start over. Then we will have that option. I don't know. If you could travel somewhere, chat, if you could go on a trip, where would you want to go? Let me pull up my... Okay, so I've got some reference as well. They were saying they want to model the tank off of an M60. We're going to kind of rough it out. Since we are going for like a Metal Slug-esque super deformation, I'm not going to, be overly committal to like the exact proportions or details or anything, but still need to get the vibe right, Also, I'm just going to be really silly with like the amount of squash and stretch. So as a sort of point of reference, what I think I want to do with this is we're effectively going to have a triangle, right? We're going to have sort of a leaning triangle like this for our, I guess you might call it shape of action, right? So we'll just sort of put that as a low opacity reference. And we don't have to keep exactly to the shape or anything, right? But just sort of, oh yeah, this is what we want to do with it. This is where we want it to go. We can sort of have this tread, this tank wheel, sort of come a bit higher, like exaggerate itself a little bit, just to sort of push that shape. And then this one can be like really, pressed to the ground to sort of fill out on the other side. And then we'll sort of nose down a little bit. And then you can sort of fill out the underside like so. Yeah, this is how tanks work, right? Like they can do this, right? Definitely get some power sliding in. Initial T. Hey, Lakota. Thank you for the 46-month resub. I really appreciate the support, and I hope you're having a good week. Welcome in. Thank you, Choom. How's it going? What you up to? There you go. Alright, so we'll have a wheel kind of like that, kind of like that, and like that, and like that, and like that. Okay, and then, yeah, I gave it a bit more just like a generic rounded top. I think what we'll do is sort of rotate it a bit more to the side so we can get some of that more like distinct gun shape or turret shape. They've got like this. There you go. We'll sort of, because we're deforming it, I think I will keep the barrel pretty large, but then the nose is going to kind of come down like that. And there's like a secondary shape which we can kind of reference on the side there where the machine gun is embedded, but we're not gonna, I don't think we'll sort of fill that out just because it would get a little crowded, you know, with Boris sort of taking up the entire top of it, you know. Okay, I like it. I think it's a really good start. I kind of want to push it even further. So, you know, while we're working with something, you know, very sort of loose-handed, we're not overly committal to anything right now. Let's just push the shape that much harder. I think that was a I don't know, I kind of dig it. I kind of dig it being that much extra, you know? Plus, when you're sketching out, you know, this is a practice in gesture drawing, that you kind of have a tendency to overdo things, right? You make your motions, your proportions, you make them extra, right? You go way overboard, like 200, 300%. Because as you dial it in, as you know, correct the anatomy, correct the proportions and everything, you know, that will sort of drive things back into being, you know, a realistic positioning, a realistic amount, right? It'll dial it towards 100%. Whereas if you start at 100%, you tend to sort of wind up with something that looks very stiff because you're at 100% and then you start reducing from there, right? So it's a good idea in a lot of cases to sort of go overkill, to go above and beyond, go plus ultra, and then the dialing in will get it down to where you actually intend for it to wind up. Let's sort of lower that down a little bit. Can dial this in just a hair. make the gun a bit bigger. I'm starting with the tank mainly because this is, I think, the area that I'm the least experienced with, right? So, not a bad idea to sort of make sure that we're sitting happy with this, and then we can sort of figure out the rest of it as we go. Or I'm not that worried about getting a good look on. Let's make this a bit longer. Because I do want to add, there's a little, I don't really know what it is, but it's like a cylinder, sort of oblong, that wraps around the top like that. It's a little bit higher than the main length of the barrel. There we go. But yeah, this looks very silly with the extra thick turret barrel, but I think it'll balance out. I was watching someone play Deadlock for the first time today, and I thought they had played League of Legends before. I thought they had some MOBA experience, and they were like, no, no. Which, first off, I respect, having never played League. Good. They're pure and clean. I played League of Legends one time. I think I did the tutorial and I played one game and I was like, oh, I don't like this. And then I never opened it up again. And I don't regret that. But, you know, I have played some Dota and I've watched Pro Dota, so I'm like generally familiar with MOBA principles. And a lot of those principles carry over to Deadlock. But yeah, watching someone who's like never played a MOBA play Deadlock is like, oh, okay, yeah, this game is like stupidly complicated. What are we even doing here, man? Like, where do you begin explaining how this works? It's like, well, it's a third-person shooter, so you play it like a shooter, right? It's like, well, in some cases, but generally no. Like most, there are a couple of characters that are, just to continue to borrow MOBA terms, they are right-click heroes, right? Their primary attack, in this case their gunfire, is going to be where most of their damage comes from. And so you want to really sort of focus on augmenting that damage output. But you have some characters that their bread and butter is their ability use, and you want to augment that. And some people are going to be a lot more concerned about item usage and positioning, and you have some that are going to be really farm centric. It's like, oh god, okay. Hang on, we gotta set up a class for this. And I feel like the problem, or the challenge in sort of explaining it is not you need to know all these things going in, right? Because they did a couple of bot matches, and then they did some actual matches with actual people and won them, right? Like the team did well enough, and the overall skill level was balanced enough that they didn't just get pub stomped, which was really awesome. I was certainly worried. It's like, oh no, but it went well. I was glad to see that they had a good time with it. The problem is more, where do you start, right? What are like the absolute core things to explain about a game like this? How do you prioritize the information that you are going to try and convey to somebody? It's a similar problem with trying to teach somebody art. It's like, okay, where do we begin, right? Like, you don't necessarily want to start at anatomy because they don't necessarily know like geometric forms, right? They don't necessarily know how to draw objects in perspective. Because, I know how to draw objects in perspective, and I can do it like the back of my hand. Surely. No problem, right? Right, chat? It was like, okay, so do we start in anatomy? Do we start with geometry? Do we start with lighting? Do we start with color theory? Like, what is going to be the focus as we, sort of push ahead and get the basic understanding needed to work up all the other ideas? What is the most core? Because it could be a lot of different things, I kind of want, to deal with the extreme shape of the drift, or the extreme angle of the drift. I kind of want him to have one leg propped up on the side here. Like, the other one can still be down inside the hatch, but I feel like it would sort of make sense that he's bracing into the drift. And then this arm can be sort of down low. So, let's take his shoulders. We'll put one down here, and he's still sort of like reaching down through the hatch to steer, because, that's definitely an angle that you can steer the tank at. And then we'll get rid of this other rough arm. And then that can go like that. And that can go like that. And then let's clean up the shape of this head, because lordy. Okay, he do got some cheek. He got some cheek to him. It's not a perfect circle. I was watching a video, not one of them Josh Strife Hayes videos. That Josh got a good head on his shoulders. I like his thinking. I like a lot of the stuff that he considers, and the stuff that he talks about with his chat. But he was having a conversation with his chat about sort of the classification of MMORPGs. Because someone came in and was like, is Warframe an MMORPG? And I love his response was, why do you want to come in here and start a fight? Because that's what you're doing. Like that is one of those things that just immediately sets off a flame war. You just immediately have people, going for the knives as soon as someone asks that. So you didn't even entertain the question. He, sort of expanded it out to what defines an MMORPG and how rigidly do genre classifications define a game, right? Like, one of the most common game genres in development for the last 20 years is the first person shooter, which is okay, so it is a game with a first person camera and some sort of gun-like object that you use as your primary tool. And everything else is up for grabs, right? Call of Duty and Halo are first-person shooters. Portal is a first-person shooter. Dishonored is a first-person shooter. But those are wildly different games that behave in wildly different ways. And if a first-person shooter, like Destiny, has item progressions and ability unlocks and is played online with a lot of other people, is it an MMORPG or a first-person shooter? And of course the answer is, well, it can be both and it can be neither, and genres should not be hard classifications of how a game is expected to perform. It should only be an indication of what is, approximately included mechanically. But he made a very good sort of analogy, or used a good metaphor that he sort of has tried to explain to businesses and such in the past, of more pertaining to the idea of trying to make a game that caters to everyone, right? It has mechanics for everyone to enjoy, rather than having a clear intention on the developer's part of what it should be and what its focus is. So let's say you and your chooms are sitting around and you all agree that you want to go to dinner and you're trying to decide where you want to go. And one person says, I want pizza, and another person says, I want ramen, and another person says, I want a burger, and another person says, let's do wings. Right? All these sound like good choices. But you can't decide on where to go. So you decide, well, let's just please everybody. So you get an order of ramen, and you get a burger, and you get a pizza, and you get chicken wings, and you throw them all in a blender, and you mix it into a fine slurry, and you pour a glass for everyone in the group. And now everyone has a little bit of everything. And nobody is happy. Not because they didn't get the thing that they wanted, but they got it in a diluted form that is haphazardly mixed with everything that everyone else asked for. And the original intention of having a succulent dinner is lost in the wind. So the point that he's trying to make is that it is, more important to have a clear design intention and to hold to that and to not lose it in the sauce of trying to appeal to as many audiences as possible and throw in unnecessary elements that just dilute the core of your game experience, right? I think this is actually one of the great disadvantages of the game industry getting as large as it has. You know, up until I would say somewhere in the 2000s, video games ran on very tight budgets. You know, they were not working with a lot here, and you would get outliers, right? But for the most part, it's like, okay, you want to have you would be very focused on this is the thing that you are trying to do, and everything else that doesn't focus that objective has got to go, because you just don't have the time, the resources to develop it. You know, maybe you'll have a wish list of additional content that would be nice to include if there's time for it. But, you know, especially a lot of the times, like, okay, well, we got through core development and we have a lot of bills to pay and debt to pay off to our publisher, so that shit gotta ship. So just go. Just go. Don't worry about the extra stuff. It's time. I'm just gonna move this down a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. Let's give him a little bit more roundness. Nice and round. But you know, now video game budgets can cost more than some countries' GDP. That's not true, but it sure feels like it. And it's like, yeah, we can include as much game as we want. We can have as much side content and filler and mini games as we can possibly imagine. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And that game is not better for it. It's absurd, it's humorous, but it's not a better game for the ability to get lost in dozens or hundreds of hours of side content. It honestly kind of makes the game feel bloated and stretched. You kind of lose a lot of the pacing of what would be a, you know, very like nicely well written, well driven story, because you got to go back to the gold saucer and do more chocobo racing. Or, you know, this big climactic story moment gets paused because they had to explain a new game mechanic, and so they had to literally pause the game and pull up a tutorial window to explain to you how this thing that you're going to do one time works. It's like, if you had just made that part of the cutscene, nobody would have cared. Nobody would have said what the fuck. There we go. Got these little tufts of hair going right there. You know, meanwhile, you have a lot of AA games, indie games, and whatnot that are still very tied to those limitations of, you know, oh, we only have like maybe 20 people working on this. We don't have a big team that can just run away with whatever they feel like making. Which is doubly funny because we were talking the other week about like how much it can take to in AAA games to add seemingly inane, meaningless extras, right? Like it can take 12 to 15 people to add a character eating a bag of potato chips to a AAA game. But then it's also like, yeah, but we have effectively a blank check to make this title, so let's just go for it. Because why not? You know, I've been complaining about Horizon Forbidden West putting so much effort into adding additional stuff to make the game feel better or feel bigger, and I don't think it feels better because of it. Like it is not a more robust, complete experience. It just feels like extra. It feels like someone had just I don't know, insecurity about it. And sequels suffer from that so much. Sequels suffer so badly from, well, it's a sequel, so we have to do more. We have to go bigger. We have to go harder. We can't just make more of the thing that people loved before. We have to... It has to be a bigger production. It's like, no, it doesn't. You know, Sword of the Sea was Giant Squid's game following The Pathless, and The Pathless was a much bigger game, right? Sword of the Sea might have had like more literal surface area than Pathless did, just because, you know, the method of traversal is longer, so you need that additional space. But like Pathless had a much more sort of traversable space. It was, you know, more open-ended. There was stuff to uncover and explore, and Sword of the Sea had some of that, but it was generally a much more linear experience. It wasn't worse for it. It wasn't an inferior game for being, you know, a smaller, tighter experience than Pathless was. It was just different. I mean, I gotta give Giant Squid credit of having the discipline to say, okay, well, we did Pathless, let's make an even bigger game now. It's like, no, let's just focus in and let's make something good and solid. And, you know, the whole bullshit with Annapurna probably didn't help the situation either. They might have had plans for a bigger game that fell through because they lost their publisher. But, you know, I personally feel that they made the right decision of trying to do something more measured and controlled. you know, the consequence of just continuously trying to scale everything up forever and ever is eventually you hit a limit, right? Eventually you hit a point where it's like, yeah, we can't actually sustain these budgets. We can't continue to make projects at the scale that we are. And something's gonna have to give. And frankly, it's already giving, I think, in a lot of ways. I think it's giving in player sentiment, it is giving in employment, it is giving in the stability and health of the industry. It is not good. It's not good. I imagine some of you might say, but Kaiga, you play Star Citizen, the game that's been in development for over a decade and has cost $1 billion. How can you be so critical? And the answer is shut up. Like, Star Citizen is not an example, is not a good example one way or the other. Like, yes. Tomato was pointing out at one point around 2016 was effectively the turning point for the game to get into its current state, because its original plan was to be much more like Freelancer or, frankly, Elite Dangerous. It was going to be a lot more like Elite Dangerous, except the main difference being you would have these sort of almost Starfield-like or Star Wars Outlaws-like, you know, automatic flight down to landing zones on planets. And then you could walk around and talk to people and maybe do some on-foot gameplay, but there would be a lot more, like, just focus on being in space. And in 2016, one of the developers that they had brought over from Crytek was like, hey, we figured out a way to do planet tech effectively. Like, we can bring realized planets into the game and massively expand the scale of the first person experience in this game. And so CIG went to the backers and said, hey guys, here's the deal. We have this idea, we have this plan. It's going to scope creep the fuck out of the game, but it will be, you know, that much bigger and more robust of an experience for it. Do you want us to stick with the original intention, or do you want us to go for this? And the backer said, go ape shit. And that was 10 years ago. So, like, this was not something that they, like, did a bait and switch with the community on. The community said, yes, please. But the consequence is that the game has been in development for 12 years and has cost $1 billion, which, if you think about a AAA studio running for 12 years, $1 billion is, like, not that crazy an amount. It is a stupid lot of money, but think about running a big company for a decade and the operating costs of that. Like, yeah, that kind of checks out. Now, there are absolutely problems with the development, and I'm not going to pretend that there aren't, but I personally don't see it being as, like, completely absurd as a lot of people like to just make the raw number out to be. But, you know, internet memes and all that. So all they've actually sold is promises. That is the big problem. Yes, the big problem is that the game that is intended to come out while we are seeing it take shape is not here yet. That is true. I think the difference is that a lot of people make it out like they've taken $1 billion and done nothing, which is not true. And yeah, if they had stuck to a smaller, more manageable scope, we would have that game already. And arguably, it would have been smart to release that initial game and then continue to build it out with more stuff so that we can sort of see it develop in real time rather than continue to be a tech demo fever dream. That probably would have been a smarter way to go about things in general, though we also see what happens when games that have been out for a very long time or, you know, have sort of built in a certain foundation, then continue to try and build ideas out post-launch. That can be problematic as well. They're not actually in debt after all these years. As far as, so my understanding is that they do have loans that they need to pay off, but yes, they are not like in the red as a company. They are actually making money and do have money in savings. But do not quote me. I have not studied their financials. Other content creators have. I have not. You know, Warframe. I got into Warframe when they were showing off their plans for the Railjack content, and I was like, holy shit, they're adding space to this Space Ninja game. That looks sick. I want to get in on it. And the Railjack content never like built out the way that they were planning to. They wanted to have like combined arms missions where people would be doing stuff on foot, and then that would affect the space missions and vice versa, and they never did that. You know, Elite Dangerous and all of its on foot misadventures are well documented at this point. The World of Warcraft team had to effectively break the game to make player housing work 20 years after the game released. So I can certainly understand to some idea the desire of, well, let's get everything that we want at like a fundamental level built before we actually call the game done, and not, you know, look at like building out ideas and content years or decades later. Of course they're gonna do that anyway, but I understand them wanting to have like the all of the necessary foundation built before they release the game, and they don't feel that they're there yet, because they're not. But I don't know, it is a fascinating case study and warning. It does make me very curious what like GTA 6 is going to be. What their plan to have that as a finalized game, or like what the release version of that game is going to look like. Because I don't know, GTA seemed like it is also gunning to be an everything game, right? GTA 5 just continued to add more and more shit that you could do, and just kind of got insane about it. But they also built that out over a long period of time. The problem is, I think most people are going to expect that GTA 6 will be able to do as much, at least, as GTA 5 is able to do now, but needs to be able to do all of that at launch, right? So I don't know. It is weird, and I think Star Citizen is sort of a illogical conclusion of what happens when you give a developer all the resources to do whatever it is that they want to do. And the answer is, well, they'll do everything. Or they will just be so fucking extra about it that the game takes forever. You know, my own game, frankly, has proven to be a lot more to develop than I thought it would be. I thought I was going for a reasonable, measured amount of stuff that wouldn't be too hard to execute on, and I would actually be able to see it done in a responsible amount of time. And that didn't happen. I did not understand the challenge that I was setting myself up for. And now I am the fool. Don't you know? I'm just not going to draw the strap on the other side. I think it would just confuse, because we already got the arm and the nose. I think if we tried to draw a strap, it would just be too many things. You know, even if we did it like up here, I think it would just be, I think it would just be too much and would sort of detract from the triangle that we're forming. Should I give him teeth? Do elephant shrews have teeth? I'm assuming they do. Some little like that. Double check we actually have a good reference. Okay, good. We've got some tuft hair inside the ear, like so. So we're going to do the normal shape of the eye like that. You know, I was watching another video while I was having dinner, talking about what the hell is up with Unreal 5. Because Unreal 5 is not very popular right now. One of my friends is pretty substantially anti-Unreal 5 for justifiable reasons, and seems to echo a fair amount of the sentiment that is around the internet, which is that Unreal 5 is shit. And I think the video did a pretty good job of, excuse me, exploring the positives and negatives of the engine, right? Why people use it as much as they do, and why it is good and why it is bad. And, you know, I think they hit the nail on the head, particularly as for why I use it, right? Because I don't know how to make an engine. I don't know how to set up a lot of the things that Unreal provides for free. Right? It just works. It just does a lot of what I need to be able to build a video game, which is very, very helpful. You know, the fact that it even now allows things like in-engine animation and editing, you know, that I can just like bring in a rigged model and correct the weight painting in engine, build the rig in engine, make the animations in engine, and then work back up the chain and make all the corrections without having to take it back to Maya or Blender and do things and re-import it and check it again. Okay, now I gotta do this now. Like, that's great. That's phenomenal. That is so helpful. But they made a comparison which, on the surface, is like, oh, how dare you? But I think is actually justified. They compared it to AI, like AI tools. In that both Unreal and many AI tools promise you something that will just let you do the thing, right? You will just be able to write a book or research a topic or make an image or make music or whatever, right? You just tell it what you want and it will make the thing. It is a make content button. Unreal is a make game engine that you can just point some stuff at it and it will make the game effectively. And as you guys have seen in our own streams, it is decidedly not that, right? It is absolutely possible to do an asset flip, right? To just throw together a basic ass third person or first person shooter, grab some assets off the Unreal store, throw them in, call it a day, and put it on Steam for $2 and see how many people you can sucker into giving you money. That's easy. But it's also, well, it's slop, right? It's Unreal slop. If you want to actually make a game that is bespoke and runs well, you know, optimization and poor performance are where a lot of the complaints about Unreal Engine come from, right? Also some complaints about everything looking the same, but again, a lot of that is because people are just sort of taking the default lighting and rendering systems out of the box and they're not tweaking them. They're not, you know, updating them or messing with them to create a more unique experience for their own game. It's just like, yeah, this looks pretty. And then they just go with, like, effectively the default settings for everything. And they call it a day. So to make something that actually looks good and plays well and is a unique experience, you still need to know how to make the thing that you want to make. Unreal Engine is not capable of making that for you. It is capable of helping, right? It is capable of providing tools that make getting to that end goal easier. But you still need to know how to tell the engine do the things that you want it to do. And that is a major shortcoming in Unreal and Epic in general, because their documentation is shit. And I think you guys will have noticed a lot of the times when I am looking stuff up, you know, trying to solve a problem on stream, I will sometimes wind up on the Unreal forums, or I might find a document, but even those documents rarely have the answers that I'm looking for. Most of the time, I end up going to some YouTube video that someone has made that explains how to do the thing that I want to do, or something adjacent enough that I can abstract that to my target. I think if Epic provided ample documentation to explain how the engine actually works and where all the various toggles and settings and controls are, then people would be able to make better games with it. But, you know, you sort of get these initial experiences, you know, they'll go to GDC, they'll have a talk, and they'll be like, hey, look at this thing that you're able to do with our engine. Isn't it cool? Please license our engine. And people see that and they're like, oh, that is cool. And then they start using it and they go, oh, this works really well in like a demo scale. But then you try and like build it up to full game scale and things start to fall apart really quickly. Like it doesn't, you know, this whole thing with like our metahumans or these high fidelity assets work really well. But then we try and populate an entire room or an entire city with them, and it's not so good, Chief. It's a little rough around the edges. It's a lot of poorly optimized assets, and we don't know how to optimize them because there's no documentation. And I know at some point, working on pages, I am going to need to optimize it. I am not doing anything in my game that I think would like severely push people's systems. But even just the general thing of making sure that stuff that I don't need is turned off so that it isn't taking up processing power. Right? Because if my game build is saying, hey, turn on Lumen and Nanite by default, even though I'm not using those things, that's going to create a substantial demand on people's systems, right? I don't know that those are on by default. I'm not accusing the engine of doing that, but it's also very possible. So I'm gonna need to go in and just make sure that, like, yeah, everything that can work or can, you know, be turned off to make sure that the game is performing as well as we can get it, I need to go in and, you know, cross those T's. I think this is looking pretty good so far. The vibe coding systems have no concept of optimizing the code they write. They can write the code fast, they just can't write the good code. Exactly. Well, so short answer, yes. But think about what an AI system is actually doing. As an AI, a large language model, as they exist right now, do not understand code in the way that a person does, right? You can say, write me a code, or write a system that I'm just gonna throw together. I'm just gonna cobble together an idea really quick. Write a system that looks at the date, the date and time, and then finds or pulls an image from a library to assign as a desktop wallpaper that gives the correct lighting and whatever, right? So like look at the date, time, and weather of your area, and then find an appropriate wallpaper for that mood. And what it will do, my understanding at least, is that it will go look for examples of code of similar projects, right? Things that essentially sort of fit the metadata for those objectives. And then we'll look at what they did and copy it. But it won't understand why they did it. It won't copy only the parts that it needs. It just finds the matching project and lifts it. And so you'll have redundant code, you'll have badly optimized code, you'll have things that don't actually serve a purpose. And then, yeah, you have to go in and clean it up because it just kind of, well, to bring the metaphor back, it just threw a bunch of it into a blender. It was like, yeah, this should work. And then you look at it and it's like, kind of, but not really. It doesn't, it technically does what you asked for, probably, maybe, but it doesn't get it. It doesn't fully understand the intention. My monitor just freaked out. Are we good? One of my monitors, this is a used TV monitor. It's fine, but I think some of the cabling on it's a little weird. I got it at Goodwill, so if it goes, I'm gonna be like, whatever. But that's one of the things that I have struggled with in making music, right? Like, I can go into Acoustica Mixcraft and sort of, grab a bass line and grab, nice guitar chord, guitar loop. I can grab some of the like pre-built audio tracks of, different instruments, whatever, and sort of layer them on top of each other and balance them and get something that sounds fine. It's fine, right? But I don't get why, right? I don't, in doing that, understand the musical theory that causes it to sound good and work, right? At some point, you just need to, like, actually get in and do the work to understand why something works the way that it does. And you can do that. You can do forward solve, or you can do backward solve. If you want to vibe code and then work backward to understand why the AI made shit and how you should fix it, I'm gonna go ahead and say that that is not a bad way to go about it. Right? It might not be the best way, but I don't think it is a bad way to approach it. If you want to, use a music program and throw together some pre-written stuff and then sort of work backwards to understand why something is successful or why something goes together well, I think you can. But I think with that second one, you might really need somebody there to help you explain the fundamentals. Hello, T-Shell. Thank you. I'm glad you like the tank. I need to... Oh, you know what? I know what I need to do here. How's your week going, T-Shell? How are you? Because this is going so off the ground, we're not gonna get all of the tank wheels, even though we technically really should, but we're gonna go insane with it. So we'll get like the front three. We'll get this one and this one clearly touching the ground, and then the other ones are gonna start to lift. Be gone. It be gone. It be gone. That is a mood I understand. Yes, indeedy. Okay, let's put this all the way up. Tanks aren't meant to drift like this, but we found a way. Also need to make sure that the treads are nice and level on the ground, right? Yeah, we'll have... Okay, so an M60, I'm sure this varies a little bit from model to model, but I'm counting 6 wheels on the ground. Yeah, so we originally did a gift art piece for Borubi, this guy, in the past, and they quite liked it. But recently they got a new model. They got like a full VTuber model of their shrew, and wanted to get sort of an updated piece of artwork to match some of the changes from what we did originally. I'll go ahead and actually bring up, I think we just did it last year. So I'll show you guys sort of what the original was. Where'd it go? Yeah, here it is. So yeah, this was the original one. And then, yeah, we're just doing a couple of updates, right? So the model is new. And sort of in hashing out like what the commission was going to be. We agreed sort of a Metal Slug style super deformed tank would be fun. So that's what we're doing. Yeah, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there are 2 sort of, I guess might call them underslung wheels. They're gonna be up here to sort of guide the tread over the top. We've got 4. And we can do like 5. Scale these down a little bit. So if we do 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. And yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense in terms of how the tank is actually like maintaining its balance or anything, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. other one on this side. We got the underslung, and then we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, those guys will all be very firmly planted, and then this is gonna just sort of get stretched out because what you're gonna do. Like that. Perfect. Okay. I'm just gonna, I want to keep the line work visible just to help get the mood of it in place, but let's go ahead and do this on another layer. Let's go ahead also and bring in, I think, or is pretty good with this color being our background still. So we'll just bring that in for reference. So it's an M60A3. This is the one that I am abstracting. And then we're gonna grab some of this and we'll just desaturate it a little bit more. So start bringing it up like that. Drag in like so. So as, yeah, let's use the Ghibli clouds just because that's going to be a bit stronger, right? A bit sharper in form. So as the dust or smoke sort of comes away from the streak, or from the sort of initial point of contact where it's going to be the sharpest, it can start to sort of billow out and take on a more volumetric shape, right? Yeah, I think I overdid it a little bit. Let's keep this a little bit tighter. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Just getting that little bit of texture in there, I think feels pretty good. Yeah. Good. hide that for now. Oop. I missed a spot. Just really sort of exaggerate that drifting. Do I have a favorite tank? Not really. What's it called? Some type of APC that's used a lot now. What is it called? I do like APCs. I think they're a good balance of like agile vehicle while still being armored. It's like a striker or something. Yeah, the striker. I don't know. I think these look cool. I guess if I had to pick a favorite, it'd probably be this, but I'd say that's as close as it gets. Okay, now let's come back in here. We're gonna grab some of this. I'm gonna change this layer name just to keep it clear. I'm gonna save. Let's make some explosions. Explosions are cool. Mega! Helps sinking me. I just want to see it go boom. Honestly, he was probably just having fun watching everyone squabble over it. There we go. And then we can maybe do like sort of one whizzing back on the far side. There we go. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. We can do a bit of like a hotter core in some places. Kind of like that. Okay. Running behind schedule and yes. Alright, I think this is coming along pretty quickly. Which is cool, I like that. Feels good. Well that's too much. Okay, let's start with a gradient. Go like that. Okay, it's fine. It's fine, I can fix it. This really shouldn't be that high up, right? Because the treads are basically establishing a flat ground plane. Let's bring our explosions down to match that. Yeah, there we go. Bring this up a little bit. Yeah. Okay, that's a little bit better. And then we can maybe do something kind of like this. And just sort of illuminate around the explosion so we can have some various tone and fall off. Like so, perhaps? There we go. I like the explosion, but I feel like it doesn't quite carry the right energy or the right momentum. See if we can't build this to be a little bit smarter. Okay, let's do this on another layer actually. I feel like the explosion doesn't look bad, but I want that same sort of like movement. No, less round actually. Because I feel like what we have right now doesn't it doesn't sort of match the movement from the tank. So it makes the drawing feel more static. I want something that sort of reinforces the drive speed of the drift. See, that almost looks like a splash of some kind. But not necessarily the wrong thing to do. I think the big thing that would help this would be getting rid of some of the rounder areas. Making it a bit more jagged and aggressive. Right. Hello, Sonic. Happy Choomsday. I hope you're doing well. Welcome in. Let's see. No, I don't want an A-bomb. Oh. Let's see. What's gonna be a good... I don't want a mushroom cloud. Mushroom cloud is post-explosion. We don't want that. Yeah, something going in this direction. Let's look for solid A3 out. You should get some sleep. That's like legitimately unhealthy. Oh, okay. 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 Well, as long as you're good. Let's try something like this, maybe? Good. As long as you're getting your sleep. It was a long time ago, but I recall 96 hours is around like the dangerous amount of time to be awake for. I have never tried it. I would not recommend it. Okay, let's get rid of this part. Maybe we can sort of expand this out to cover more, and this can be a little bit rounder as it sort of tumbles across the ground. That kind of makes sense. Yeah, it feels a bit better. Do another small explosion in the back. kind of indications of another one back there. Okay, that feels a little bit better. So before, like, it's a nice looking explosion. Alrighty, T-Shell. Appreciate you hanging out. I hope you get some very good rest, and I hope you have a very good midweek. We'll see you next time. Everyone say goodnight. There we go. There we go. Okay, so now let's kind of go in and do some of the layering up that we did before. And sort of keep an eye on that, you know, outward momentum, really get the blast energy going with it, right? Sort of down here, I can start to sort of billow out, round out more. Whereas up at the top, it's just be extremely streaky. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. There we go. There we go. Alright, and then just a little bit of, can do some like superheated bits and some of the debris, right? Little bits of shrapnel popping out. Yeah, you see how much more energy that feels like it has? It's more something that he has to like dodge or race around rather than just kind of like popping in place. Like it's coming more at him rather than just kind of being there. Right, got the before and after. Okay, I think that's good. Let's start blocking in some of his colors. Luckily, He gave me a very handy dandy color palette. Should make it nice and easy. I have to revise my color palette. It is overly complicated. I feel like it is not actually helpful. Oh, I missed a spot. Here, let's just do this. There you go. How's that? All good? Yes, too good, in fact. We're gonna do a couple of deliberate cuts in here. So I'm gonna cut that. I'm gonna cut this. Cut through there. And then cut like that. Just because I don't really want this to be like fully built out. And then we need to come down here and delete this extra bit of the tread section. Okay, that looks good. Oh, I missed like all of his equipment. All right. I'm wondering if the turret is too big. I feel like it is. Yeah, it's a little big. Okay, so I don't think the turret is too big. I think the gun is. I think we can make those smaller. I think we can just sort of grab this bit and scale it down maybe like, yeah, 10% or so. Yeah, that feels a bit more balanced. And then we can just sort of correct the underside of the turret there. Fill that in to be a little less weird. It looks like it's smiling now, which is silly. It makes me laugh. It gives me a little tee-hee, a little haha. Good. Alright, that looks pretty good. And then what's next? I'm actually gonna grab some of this red here and we're gonna use that for the line color because I think that'll help sort of get some tone in there. Oh goodness, that was way too dark though. There you go, that helps more. Okay, good. And then, okay, so the pink is for his scars in the inside of the ear. I'm not sure where that darkest tone is used. No. So we'll just do a little bit of this right in here like so. And then a little scar across his nose and one across this eye. And then he's got a cross shape on the butt. Like so. Alright. Yeah, I completely forgot to draw his belt. He's got a bandolier. I'm gonna wing it later. Well, I say later, but I do need to block the colors in. So let's just kind of fill it that way and we'll go from there. Yeah, this should come down like this. And then it'll sort of ride up over the raised leg like that. And he's got one pouch right there, second pouch right there, and then the third one will sort of get cradled underneath this arm, like that. Okay, yeah. Grab that color for the metal bits, and this color for the straps. Okay. And then eye color is going to be very slightly off white, and we're going to need a sort of sky blue for the iris. Looks good. Alrighty. Am I missing anything? Yes, there are a couple of things. So we need to do the mouth, and I forgot to draw his tail. Of course I forgot to draw the tail. Of course I forgot to draw the tail. It's fine. We'll wing it. We'll do it live. Okay. Ironically, did give me a reference for the tongue color. Just like, yeah, sure. Appreciate it. I think we can actually just take that and sort of darken it for the rest of the mouth, and that should be fine. Try and keep the tongue kind of narrow just to line up with what his model has. Okay. And then, I don't know, tanks are kind of uniform in color. Like, they have a lot of sort of exposed sections. They've got, you know, a bunch of wear and tear and grime on them, but all the tanks that I pulled up for reference are pretty monotone. There's not a lot to break it up with. I feel like what there is, we can kind of just sample off of the existing palette. We don't really need to like block anything in. Alright. Let me send a progress update up over to him really quickly just to make sure that he sort of likes the way everything is going. And then we will start blocking in some shadows and such. I don't think he's streaming tonight. I don't see him online anyway. Okay, and then for shading, let's grab some kind of low tone red. Sort of a similar vibe to last time. We'll keep all this obviously very low and dark. I think this panel will be on the far side, so it's going to be pretty shaded. For the underside of the turret and part of the hatch cover, back side of the barrel, inside of the barrel, far side of our boy. Alright. It goes like that. And go like that. Let's get this side too. You can go kind of like that. You can go like that. And then we'll put a little bit down here. A little bit under there. That looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Okay, okay, okay. Put down there. Now on the back side of the limbs. A bit underneath the paw. Underneath the bandolier. And the chin. I'm not quite happy with how the chin is looking, but I think it's a good enough setup that we can sort of correct it as we go. Do a little bit of a brim underneath the helmet. I'll leave sort of a mix just because I like, you know, the full thing for like the ambient occlusion, but then we can sort of have that be a bit of a gradient where like some bounce lighting is getting inside the helmet. They did respond pretty quickly. They're happy with the direction of it. I'm just making sure. Yep. No feedback yet, so we push ahead. You know, with this one, obviously, since they commissioned it, it's like, yeah, we're gonna send progress updates. We're gonna let them know how things are going. Obviously, when it's a gift piece, I like it to be a bit of a surprise, but for something like this, like, no, check in. Let's put together the palette. I'm gonna go grab some of this for let's see, color dodge kind of works. Oh, I think glow dodge actually sits at a pretty good intensity here. At least when we don't go too hard with it. I think this works well for like the rim lighting. You just gotta be careful not to blow it out, you know? I'm gonna make sure also that he's got a dent in his helmet. We'll have to make sure we include that. Good. We can also always just lower the intensity. Feels like the orange is coming in a little too hot. Can just lower the opacity down some so it's not quite so bad. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I like this is like the sort of hot ends of it, right? So like sort of around the rim, the most intense locations. Obviously fade off a little bit, but I think what we can do is have a secondary layer that's a more sort of uniform fill, right? Maybe have that set to, what can we set this to that's gonna look good? Vivid light, no. Color dodge looks like that. Screen? Screen's not bad. It's a little intense, but the main thing with screen is it has a bad habit of washing things out, but we can make it work. Man, I know it wasn't like the first thing to do it, but can you imagine what like sci-fi soundscapes would sound like if Blade Runner hadn't used the synthesizer they did? I feel like the vibe that they came up with in that movie has become so universal for sci-fi soundtracks, and just not having that, like, everything would sound different. Yeah, there we go. Maybe just drop both of them to 80%. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, what am I missing? Well, there are a couple of things I know I forgot to draw in, but let's see. So we've got the lighting, got that. Honestly, I think that's a pretty good setup of all the various tones that we need. I think we can go from here. I'm gonna do one thing. I want to make his paws just a little bit darker than the rest of him. The rest of his fur tone. I'm just gonna come in with this dark tone divided on the palette. I'm just gonna layer that in right through here. Put that to an overlay. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. That looks good. That looks pretty good. Alright. And then let's grab a little bit of this again. This is sort of reinforce some of our ideas. Whoop. What'd you do? Set that to an overlay? No. Ooh, there you go. I'm gonna scale this down just a little bit. I'm gonna keep that ground plane. I'm guessing. There we go. Alright, cool. Alright, let's get painting and see what we can do with this. I think same as the sketch, I want to start with the tank. Just because I think we're going to have a lot of the sort of things to consider and things to answer are going to be based on the tank rather than on the ship. Let's double check. Alright, cool. No additional messages, so I think we are good to go. Sort of deepen the cup of this a little bit. We can add a bit more construction detail as well. We can come in and like add a few things that are harder to, or not harder to sketch out, but just don't pay off as much to sketch out, you know? There you go. Little construction details and whatnot. Also antenna. I want to draw antenna on this sucker. So there'll be plenty of room to do that. There we go. So yeah, this is the part where I was talking about we gotta sort of come in and rebuild the underside of the turret that we shaved off. It's not too bad though. You know, sort of along this edge, I think we can have, you know, a particularly brighter highlight. The middle's really sort of catching the light of the explosion, right? Now what's going on here? Okay, so there's a bit of a planar change. We can block in with color. Alright, let's come in and block that out. Good. Alright. Yeah, just kind of fill the collar in a little bit. I think that would be pretty dark overall. It's not going to get a lot of light bounce down there. And then you can go like that. You can go over here. Sort of round the shape out like so. Hey Mage, how you doing? Welcome back. Let's see. Made it to map. Nice! Congrats. There we go. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, good, good, good. You can bring a little bit more of the pure orange in, really light the sucker up. That's why I got the win to rank, because the opponent went AFK and the clock ran out. Well, that sucks. It's a little anticlimactic. Got a little bit of this. See, now you just gotta bring that mojo into deadlock so we can get out of Seeker. I suppose we did have that the other night with the guy that rage quit. There we go, yeah. Yeah. Alright, we cooking. He was probably looking blank faces at confetti balls. Woo! There we go. You know, the more I think about that conversation Josh was having, the less I know what I would even specify to qualify an MMO with. I feel like these days it's not really a matter of player count. Most things that are considered MMORPGs don't have like continual interaction with large groups of people. So it's not, you know, the number of people participating in the same activity at the same time. So what is it? You know? Like, it's not really mechanical, it's not technical. Like, Destiny and Warframe are often pointed to as MMOs, but neither of them. I think the largest groups in Destiny are 6 people? Maybe 10. And Warframe is like never more than 4. I think Warframe had one game mode where it put like 2 groups of 4 together. But you never had all 8 people in the same thing. It was just like 2 groups of 4 cooperating to complete something. Or maybe I'm not even thinking of the right game for that. It's like, you know, Final Fantasy never has more than 24 people working together on the same mechanic. I suppose some of the stuff like Eureka and Boja have large group activity, which just sort of is there because it's in the open world and you can have people mob something to death. That's true. Notorious Monsters, the NM hunts, because they're out in the open world, the trains can be effectively as big as you can cram into the zone, which gets very weird because sometimes the populations would get so high that you couldn't even see the monster for all the players. Like, it just wouldn't be able to load in the monster. So the game wasn't really like technically built to handle extremely high populations in concentrated areas. You know, Eve, apparently there was a fight in Eve recently that crashed the server or something. Like, even with all of their population control systems, they still overloaded the game. Which is kind of impressive, to be honest. So, like, I don't think it's a matter of population. I don't think it's a matter of game mechanics or gameplay, because there's a bunch of different things that qualify as MMOs, even though they play as completely separate games. So what is it? What is the thing that defines a particular thing? And, you know, Josh's whole point is there isn't. It's all kind of just vibes. But I think, you know, at that point, it's sort of a question of, alright, Mage, well, I know the final win was a little disappointing, but congrats on your rank up. I hope you get some very good rest, and I hope you have a very good midweek. Everyone say goodnight. I suppose the reason that I'm sort of hung up on it is not so much like, okay, but we need to find a definition. It's more, well, if the definition isn't defining anything, why do we have the genre? Right? I think the idea of an MMORPG comes from a time period like the late 90s and early 2000s, when a perpetually online game that you played with a large population sharing the experience was novel. right? You only had a handful of things that were providing that. And at this point, so many games are perpetually online. It's not really that unique of an experience anymore, you know? So it's like, I don't know. It honestly might just be time to retire MMORPG as a classification of game. If we can't point to anything specific that defines it from other genres, then it's not doing any work, you know? It's kind of a wild thing to say, but there we go. This music's kind of reminding me of Risk of Rain. I thought about opening it the other night, but it was getting late, and I like to play the arcade mode or just endless loop mode, which can end up taking a few hours to get through. It's like I should not start this so soon to bed. Another time then. There we go. Can start cutting some of this back. It's coming along. I think getting all of the little details and greebles and everything painted in is definitely going to take us a minute, but it'll be fun. Here, let's go ahead and just sort of darken all of this in. Good. 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 Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I don't have a way to explain how these wheels are bouncing the way they are, so don't worry about it. We can just sort of exaggerate some of the spoke work that's supporting the wheels. There we are. Let's go ahead and darken the deep end of this carriage. Good. Is this working? Something's a little off about it. Okay, I see. It needs to come down more like here, which we could wind up with a weird little tangent. We'll double check it. We just raise this box up a little bit. I think we'll be okay. Yeah, this just kind of falls in underneath it. There we go. Good. Good. Okay. Good. Alright, I think this is coming along pretty well. I'm enjoying it. I'm feeling it. I dig it. I'm gonna do a fun little thing here. We're gonna... I know tanks don't charge up a shot, but we're gonna pretend like they do. This is our drawing. If we want to have power shots, then we can do that. Oh. Hey, Boris. Thank you for the check-in. Appreciate it. You're right. I was getting a little shrimpy. How you doing, Jim? Let me do one of these for you. Wait, what? What? The heck? Why can't I at you? Whatever, you're gonna get one anyway. Is there like a stealth support check-in? There you are. I don't know why I couldn't at you. Hey. I'm glad you like it. I'm mostly working on the tank right now, making sure that that looks good, sort of painting in some of the greebles and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's coming along okay. How are you doing? How'd Sekiro go? Almost beat the game up. Nice! This is a little held up by Granny. Mima giving you the business. Nice. I'm glad it didn't slow you down too much. I have never played a FromSoft game, actually. I played a teeny bit of Bloodborne. And that's it. Yeah, if you do have any thoughts, oh, thank you for the hit hit. If you do have any thoughts on anything you want to see adjusted or whatnot, do let me know. We can make it happen. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. We'll just add a little tiny gun barrel right here. This little. Oh. Oh, I fucked the perspective up. Alrighty, Laura, no worries. Appreciate you lurking. Appreciate you checking in on it. But yeah, I'll send you an update after the stream. Just show you where we got to by the end of the night. If you have any thoughts then, feel free to let me know. Just the perspective on there a little bit. I got a text earlier today. I left my bike at the shop to get the brakes checked out, and they sent me a text letting me know that my bike was ready to be picked up. And it's like, oh, cool. So what did you guys do? Because they were supposed to send me a text and let me know like what they had found and what the plan was, right? Effectively give me a quote. You know, if the repairs were going to be more extensive. So I don't know, maybe they just took a look at it. It's like, yeah, we just need to like adjust the brake pressure and everything's good to go. Maybe it wasn't anything big. I guess I'm hoping if it was something more substantial, they would have texted me first. I'm just a little worried that's like, I thought I was supposed to hear from you guys. What's up with that? It could also be one of those things that, you know, the person that was supposed to message me just never got around to it, and then they kind of carried on thinking that, you know, everything had been done according to spec. Which again, I would hope, like, if it were something that needed my approval, someone would have gone, hey, wait, did you ask them first? But I guess we'll find out hopefully tomorrow. I want to go by tomorrow. We'll see if there's time. Unfortunately, with the weather turning kind of sour, you know, what I did when I dropped it off was I biked down there and then I jogged home, and I don't know if I'll be able to do that. Certainly, if it's during a work day, I don't think I'll be able to. Maybe on Friday. If Friday looks like it's going to be better, I might try for it then. I'm going to sort of wash the color on the pouches a little bit so it reflects the green a bit more in the cloth, in the fabric, than on the metals. I think that's actually kind of backwards, but it's okay. Yeah, there you go. Double check these here elbows of ours. I think he's got little fur tufts on him. Yeah, he does. We can go kind of grab a little bit of this just to pop the highlight, right? Right on the edge there. Perfect. Good. Alright, and then yeah, let's just keep this a little bit lower than we have it right now, I think. Actually, hang on. No, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm fucking up is what I'm doing. I think this just needs to be a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Just make it a little bit more shallow. And a bit more implication of a chin. It's a little bit too round of a face. Yeah, that looks good. That looks pretty good. Maybe just bring it up a little bit here at the end. We can sort of soften out this shadow too. Yeah. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Alright. And then board does actually have a fairly noticeable, sorry, 1 second. Where's my mouse? There you are. Excuse me. Board does have a fairly noticeable fur texture. So, compared to the last one that was pretty uniform in surface, we're going to make sure that we actually sort of render in those tufts. Give them some fluff. Little fluffy. Yes. You know, I think watching Connor's cyclothon, I always love getting to see the places that they go to, right? Like, Iron Mouse, is a big representative of the Immune Deficiency Fund and, has done a lot of campaigning herself for the cause, because of how it has helped her and helped people that she knows. Made a post responding to some of the negativity around it because it's the internet, and of course people are going to be negative about a good cause, but one of the things that they do, it's not just them biking the entire time, right? Obviously they stop for meals at various places, but they'll also stop at locations along the way. They'll stop at museums or shrines or amusement areas or just parks, right? Just interesting locations, and walk around for a little bit and find out more information. And it becomes a really fun, like, not just a marathon, but a cool sightseeing opportunity, which I really appreciate. It's one of the things that I really enjoy about riding my bike is I feel like I see more, right? Like whenever I'm in my car, I'm just driving, right? I might glance out. When I say glance out, like I'm looking out the car, right? But I'm looking out the car at the traffic and the street lights and the signage. I'm like taking in all the information that I need to drive safely and get where I'm going. I'm very rarely appreciating where I am because there's too much else that I need to process. Whereas when I'm on my bike, there's still a lot of information to take in, right? I need to be mindful of the traffic, I need to be mindful of the lights and all that, but I'm not going nearly as fast. My top speeds on like a steep downhill might be like 20 miles an hour. A lot of times I'm sort of hovering between 10 and 15. And so I can just cruise and appreciate the space that I'm in a lot more. Sort of see what's going on, see who's around, see, how things are changing with the seasons, and really sort of appreciate my area more. I think if Connor and Chris really just sort of tried to power through the cycling, I don't know. I don't think it would be as cool of an experience. I think it's fun that they sort of go out and, in the process of their travel, explore these locations a little bit and sort of show them off to the audience. And a lot of Chris's YouTube channel is, the YouTube channel is Chris Abroad. It is him out in Japan, and his whole sort of career is essentially to do content discovery. Go around Japan and be like, here's sort of interesting places, and here's what's going on with this, and he's met a lot of really cool people as a result and seen a lot of cool things, and sort of provided good information for people that are looking to go to Japan and want to sort of know what to hit up while they're there. It's not just, oh, I don't just want to watch them cycle all the time. I want to watch their adventure. I do think events like this are important because you can donate to the Immunodeficiency Fund any day, right? You can donate, on GDQ's side, you can donate to Doctors Without Borders or the Prevent Cancer Foundation any day of the week, whenever you feel like it, right? But when it's part of an event, and when your donations are getting added towards a cumulative total, and you feel like you're contributing to something like that, I think people feel more inclined to give when it's not just them and they have a group effort that they are contributing to. To borrow a meme, apes together strong. I think people feel like even if they're donating the same amount, sort of seeing it go into the aggregate and seeing how much the combined efforts are achieving feels better. Even if everybody donated the same amount independently, it doesn't have the same sort of impact. Or at least it doesn't feel like it. And for better or for worse, humans are very, what's the word? Not sympathetic. I mean, humans are sympathetic, but humans are very sentimental creatures, right? If the vibes ain't there, it becomes very hard to convince people to do it, or to convince people that something is true. I think we need to update the saying. Because the saying is, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it think. I think we need to update it. You can lead a human to information, but you can't make it think. Leave the horse alone. The horse just wants to eat grass and run. Speaking of horses, I finished Cinderella Grey. Oguri Cap is a 12 out of 10 best girl, #1 fatty, and I love her to death. She is so sweet. She is so good, and I absolutely adore her. She might honestly be like tied with Teo for my favorite character. Like, there are a lot of characters that I think are very cute and very charming and good. I don't know that there's really any character that I have seen that I didn't like. But I think Oguri is tied for my favorite. You know, the cynic in me is like, well, of course they're not going to make a character that you don't like, because they're all characters in a gacha game and they're trying to, you know, get you to buy gacha characters. But hey, Genetic, happy Choomsday. I hope you're having a good week. Welcome in. You know, there was a character in Cinderella Grey that they introduced the character. I'm like, oh, I don't like this bitch. I don't like this character at all. She is creepy. I don't like her vibes. I don't like her whole situation. Nice. Are you just chilling? Are you traveling? What's the itinerary? But by the end of the arc, I was like, okay, I kind of like this character. Excellent. Most of my vacations are spent chilling, just because that's all I really want to do when I get a vacation. I hope you get some good chilling in. You deserve it. Yes, I absolutely enjoyed it. It was a little weird just because it felt like they had an extra episode that they threw in for the hell of it. It's like, you could have ended on the previous episode and it would have been fine. But sure, one more, let's go. I don't think they were setting up for another series or anything, because it didn't feel like it was gonna expand into that. It just kind of felt like an extra episode, which, I don't know, is fine, I guess. But yeah, so the Darth Maul show is out, and I really want to watch that. Haven't had a chance to start it. And then an anime called Witch Hat Atelier has started airing. I think it's like 3 episodes in. And the manga seemed really interesting, but I never got around to reading it. So I really want to give the show a watch. I'll have to look into that later. I was thinking of giving Oshinoko a try because Jin was really endorsing it. I was like, okay, maybe I'll give it a shot. But there's something else. Also, apparently, someone either intentionally or accidentally just kind of leaked the Avatar Last Airbender movie to the internet. It's just kind of up there now. And of course, Paramount is trying to take it down, but you know how taking things off the internet tends to go. So whoops. Dang, I'm just like completely blocking you guys, aren't I? Hang on, there we go. Better. Yep. Can't stop the signal. And from my understanding, it is not the complete version of the movie. Like, there's still some post-production left to do. So it's not 100%, and I think I do still want to wait for, like, the final release to happen. But, oops. There we go. Apparently, so Amazing Digital Circus has one episode left to go. They have the series finale, but it's an hour long, and so they're going to release it like normal, but then they're also going to do a theatrical run of episodes 8 and 9 combined into a single, like, a movie length episode. And apparently they have theaters lined up to air it. That's pretty cool. I am impressed that they have the means to go through with something of that scale. It's pretty cool, considering, you know, this is just like an independent animation studio. But they have the resources to do a theatrical run. Kind of shows you where, like, the scene is at. Animation, I don't know, like, obviously the bigger studios are still doing really cool stuff like Zootopia and K-pop Demon Hunters and all that, but I don't know, it feels like a lot of the really, like, interesting animation isn't coming from the big names. I'm not gonna lie, after all this stuff we've been doing for the game, I kind of have an itch to learn to animate. Like, I'm not sure if it would be 3D or 2D, but I kind of want to just, like, sit down and sort of the way that we've been doing, like, animatics and whatnot, just do more of that. I don't know that I would ever get, like, a fully cleaned up animation or anything out of it, but definitely more like